Uh, I uh, I will, if it's all right with you. I wanted to record this. I can send you a copy of it just because I thought I was really eager to hear what your reflections on Dr. Wells, just because I think that's really important. And I'll do the same thing. I can email it to your son and you as well. Your son asked me about directions on how to record like the calls like this. I mailed him the information on how I mailed him several ways that I do it, and told him to
Okay.
let me know if he had any problems or if it didn't work or what have you. But yeah. I think I just I think this is extremely important. Yeah, and I'll do the same procedure if that's acceptable.
Yeah, sure, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
if just if it's possible, like if you could do maybe just 5 minutes that I actually could share with listeners, just your thoughts on Dr. Welsing, because I know they would really appreciate hearing your just appreciation for her work. And I could just make it 5 minutes that I can share, and then the rest of it will just be private, and not available online or anything.
Okay. Well, I have a lot to say about her
take
as
take your
well.
time. I mean, my goodness. Oh yeah, for sure. Just I know folks always appreciate, but I mean, Dr. Welsing was just such a wow. She was. I'm almost at a loss for words. Just the brilliance and the class. I mean, just the and oh my gosh, just incredible loss. But yeah, your reflections on Dr. Welsing.
Mhm. Well, I can say that personally that she means so much to me, and I use the present tense because in African tradition, the spirit never dies, and her spirit, will always live. And this is one of the things I like about African tradition. Some things I don't like, but this is one of the aspects that I think is very relevant, that this idea of the spirit living on. And there's a proverb, African proverb, I'll paraphrase, that as long as you call the person's name, and I carry it one step further, saying that as long as you even think about the person continues to live on. So when they do libation, that means you call on their ancestors. You call their name. Marcus Garvey, Paul Robeson. I love William Patterson. Among others, Chairman Fred Hampton, Bunchy Carter. The list is endless. And I did a presentation on, not a presentation, but part of the eulogy for Baba Herman Ferguson, who I love him. He was a colleague, close associate of Malcolm X. He was here in North Carolina, and I got a chance to spend a lot of time with him. And when you call their names, during the eulogy, what I said was I created and I elevated people like them, now including Dr. Welsing, to what I call the Blacknificent, no, the Grandcestor Hall of Blacknificence. That means that she's now not just an ancestor, but someone explicitly fighting for our liberation. I call a grand ancestor. Like we have grandparents, grandchildren. Why not have grandcestors that we really elevate them uh, and give them the stature that they have earned, like Ida B. Wells. So Dr. Welsing is there in that grandcestor hall of Blacknificence. She's just such a class person. How she carried herself with such dignity. And one of the most beautiful aspects of Dr. Welsing was that her behavior matched her words. See, I always talk about let's minimize and eliminate as much as possible our contradiction while we're in this paradigm called the USA, the United States Corporation of America. And so she personified this idea of matching her words with her actions. And she said, carry yourself with dignity. That's how she carries herself. She said, I heard one of her lectures. I actually pulled out about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's an old lecture. She said when she was talking about her parent, I think it might have been her mother, said, mother said, say what you think. That's what she did. She said what she thought. And she thought out what she was going to say. So she was more than a psychiatrist to me. She was a psychiatrist, she was a medical doctor, but she was a scientist. And I have said this before, that we are fighting against people who are scientific, who are mathematical, who are methodical and calculating. So she understood that fully, and that's how she was. She was scientific, she was mathematical, she was methodical, she was calculating, and she was articulate in how she brought forward the understanding of this dynamic that she called white supremacy. And she extended it with the understanding that she got from the work of Neely Fuller, and he was a close friend and colleague, that this is a global dynamic that she said we were in. And she taught us that there's a tiny minority that ruling the planet, and what she has said is irrefutable, that they are trying to avoid white genetic annihilation. Now, I have kind of inserted a little difference in what she has said. I've added to it. And this is why thinking is so important, because these great ancestors bring us these ideas and these concepts. And as a human being, we're supposed to evolve them and extend them so that we can come up with a solution to the problem. You know, not just come and talk about it. And she offered us her solutions, clean up where you are, don't disrespect yourself, etc. And so I have said that in addition to the characteristics that she said we should adopt, that we should also understand this global dynamic called the global chessboard. That on this chessboard, white plays offense, defense, and black plays defense, offense. Now, I've kind of changed that. I have and she's helped me kind of crystallize this idea. And I'm saying that for the most part, that the white side of the board is really playing defense. And we are on offense. Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, I could say that he's a friend of mine. He was a friend of mine. But in the current sense, even though he's a grandson, I say, he's a friend of mine. He makes a statement. He said, we shall not overcome, we shall overrun. And I have said that if the white people just left us alone for the last 50 years, we would be running America. We would be running this corporation. So everything they do is a scheme. And frankly, I call them the scheming demons. The Constitution is a scheme. Now, Dr. Welsing helped me come to this understanding. when she said, yeah, white moves first, offense, defense. And I have an article, and I'm thinking about trying to find it, because a brother brought me an article years ago, and it said that chess started in ancient Kemet. I remember reading it, but I don't remember it. And I'm thinking that if it started in ancient Kemet, I'm thinking that black moved first and white played defense. So you look at the Constitution, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, where they put that little piece in there about slavery is abolished, except if you get arrested, you're in prison, then you could be re-enslaved. So that's defense. Plessy versus Ferguson, that's defense. Jim Crow, Dr. Welsing helped me understand. They're playing defense. When they created unions to keep black people out, like the first jockeys, for example. If you look at this video, the journey of the African-American athlete, were the first bicyclists. I don't remember the brother's name, but this brother was so good that the white people, that's when they had that big wheel in the front and a little wheel in the back. The white people would stand on the side and try to throw broomsticks into the wheel to make him, crash and fall down so he wouldn't win all the races. The first jockeys, since they were the ones who had been enslaved Africans, remember, we were never slaves. We were enslaved. That means somebody had more power than we had through weapons and savagery. The first jockeys won all the first derbies. So they were kicked out. They were prohibited from participating in the derbies. That's defense. They kept blacks out of, as I mentioned, the unions later on. That's defense. So we've always been on offense. We just didn't know we were on offense. So I have a saying, thanks to Dr. Welsing, that says the best offense is a super great defense. And as I extend this idea, we know that you have to shift from offense to defense. I'm thinking team theory now. And she has the whole idea about the big balls and the little balls and the brown balls and the white balls. So all of this is coming, because she laid down the initial foundation for understanding these concepts about teams. And I'm saying, yeah, when you think about it, these white people are on defense, and we have them on their heels. And just about everything they do is defense. But we don't know that we're on offense. I have a chart, and it's the great black inventions. It says, it's a beautiful chart in color. And it says, black inventions live on. And when you look at it, it's all the black inventions in this country developed by black people. And when you take all the inventions together, they could actually run a city. And of course, the white people came. And next, and on the right-hand side of this, it shows you the name of the person that invented the item, the date, and the patent. And then white people came and, stole it. They bum rushed all of this. And so this is offense. Now, I have a brother, Professor Walter Williams. He has the book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. And he kind of resents the use of the word Negro. He said, well, we call ourselves Negro. We say it pejoratively, meaning that, Negro means dead, mentally dead. He said, but we did more when we were Negroes than we've done being so-called African. And it goes back to all these inventions. But Dr. Welsing helped me understand this shifting of offense. And you got to do offense, defense. You got to know when to play offense, when to play defense, and when to shift from one to the other to make that transition. But her analysis, laying it down, helps me clarify, okay, this is what we're doing. And I'm seeing now, these white people, man, that's why they brought Ronald Reagan in. That was defense. Because, hey, we're on offense. Civil Rights Act, or Civil Rights Movement, that was really offense. Even though, they beat us, but hey, we came at them. So now there's another word I want to interject into this conversation, and that is counter-offense. See, so they're playing defense, we're on offense, then they are trying to be on offense, and now we got to come back with counter-offense. We got to take it to them. I looked at this video. It's very fascinating. It's called Air Fights. I think it's about World War II and the different pilots. There was, I think, a German pilot that came up with these 8 steps that a pilot has to engage in air fight. And one is, I think it's the second dictum, he calls them. He said the second one is never run from your opponent. You turn and you face your opponent. And this is what we have been doing. We have been facing our opponent and everything they do. The AIDS virus. Dr. Leon Horowitz came out with the book, Emerging Viruses. AIDS virus, that's defense on the part of the white people. It was disclosed that the SARS virus that they tried to put on China, that's defense. So I hope that, this is something that we got to look at, I think, a little closer. But all this is foundational, conceptual understanding brought forward to us by Dr. Welsing. And so I'm looking at all of this in this idea of the team concept, offense, defense, strategy, movement, and that's what makes her the ultimate mathematician in my estimation. So she's a glorious person. She always, and Dr. Len Jeffries brought this out. We heard him speak about her. He was very good friends with her. And he said he first met her in California. This sister, she comes in and she had this afro. And she's had her hair natural all of these years, man. I mean, that's a statement just by itself about black love. And then she talks about Asar. This goes back to ancient Kemet. There is the Immaculate Conception. Asar, Aset, and the baby Heru. And she calls Asar the Lord of the perfect black. And I've added to that. I said, yes, Asar is Lord of the perfect black, utmost blacknificent Asar. You see. So she has given us a lot, man. Just a very, very high-class human being. And if you want to look at a human being, she is a human being. And her spirit, to me, will never die. I do libation. I call her, and they told us at the memorial, you always call her name. And I will always do that. I will always call the name of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Queen Mother. And really, she should be referred to as Divine Supreme Goddess Queen Mother Frances Cress Welsing. That's how we should always refer to her. Divine Supreme Goddess Queen Mother Dr. Frances Cress Welsing.
Ashe.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
I can. Yeah, I can say a lot more about her, but and you look at these different areas of the the different. I call it the different cells, Selves, and I mean she was, of course, she was at the pinnacle, at the top in terms of her psychology, and this is where the war is. The war is against us psychologically. That's really where the main barrage is coming from on that white side is psychological. She had that down. She could deflect all of that. She said, don't call yourself minority. Don't say that you are going to the crib. Don't call yourself third world. I got this friend, she was saying she was listening to hip-hop artists in Africa. He's in the heart of Africa. He's calling himself a minority. So that clearly demonstrates that he is a victim of psychological warfare. She was, to a great extent, into the culture. She understood the value of culture. And that has a very important role to play because culture, I know Neely Fuller says, culture is what people are doing when they're doing it. But Dr. Asa Hilliard, another grandsister, he has many books. One is, if you go online, I'm sure it's online by now, it's Free Your Mind, Return to the Source. And he says Africa is the source, and Kemet is the foundation of the source. Matter of fact, he has a tape called Kemet, The Keys. It's not Keys to the Colors. I don't remember the full title. But he says that, free your mind, return to the source. And that culture is the glue to that keeps people together. And culture does simply tell you what you should do, what you should not do. It tells you, furthermore, what is right and what is wrong. You see, that's the value of culture. What is right, what is wrong. What's relevant, what's irrelevant. What's for you, what's against you. So she understood to a great extent that. And then economics, I think that she was very good in terms of her economic understanding. You buy, you spend money. I'm going to give you a word that I invented. Maybe I didn't. I haven't looked it up in the dictionary yet. Frugalization. Frugalize. Don't spend money where you're not wanted, where people disrespect you, and where people don't take that money and put part of it back into your community. So frugalize. Frugalization. So she understood that. And then you go to the area of education. Of course, she was if on a scale from 0 to 10, she was education, and I don't just mean book education. And I say in one of my books that there are 3 types of education. There is book education, there's street education, and there is system education, understanding the system. And I don't know about the street part, but I know that she understood the system from top to bottom, and she definitely had the book education. She read all the newspapers. That's why I tell black people, man, you got to read the newspaper. I was just this evening, pull up next to this brother, and I know that brothers, what they do, one of the first things a majority of them do when they get in the car, first thing they do is they put on music. Come on, man, there's war against you, and you putting on music. I know Dr. Welsing, first thing she does, I will bet, turn on the news. What's going on? She wants to know. That's why she said, black people say, hey, yo, what's going on? What's up? Because they don't know what's going on. But she was not like that. And we heard her sister speak. Because, she lost her other sister. So there were three sisters in the family. And the other sister passed, I don't know, I don't remember when, but I know the other sister passed. But the one that is still here said that Dr. Welsing cut out news articles all the time. And that's why I was doing that as well, saying, hey, this is important. People, we need to know this. I used to say black people need to know this, so we cut out these news articles. And so in terms of education, yes. Hold on 1 second, brother.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of education, she had education. And again, I emphasize, education doesn't mean going to school. It can mean that, but that's why I make the distinction, thanks to Dr. Welsing, that there's a difference between having a degree and having an education. And a lot of people have degrees, but they do not have an education. So these three types of education, there may be others, but the three that I know of: system, book education, and street education. And that means you got to know what's happening in the street, when you travel. So I tell brothers, don't get high, don't be walking around high in the street, smoking weed. That's suicide. The white people, Dr. Welsing understood this, the white people, the police, they bring the drugs in the community. They lace the drugs with all of these chemicals, and the chemicals are even more lethal now than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's why these babies are born emotionally underdeveloped, intellectually underdeveloped. These brothers and sisters smoking weed, staying up late. I don't know if people realize this, is that the most important part of the evening, 10 p.m. to 2 p.m., to 2 a.m., 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., because that is when, Dr. Welsing again, here we go, the melanin kicks in. And this is when the body is repairing itself. This is when the pineal gland is operating. As a matter of fact, I heard a discussion not too long ago where the guy said that when the pineal gland is not functioning at capacity, it leads to early death. So here we go. Black people are up partying. They go into the party at 1 and 2 o'clock. So she understood this. As a psychiatrist, she knew about the mind and the functioning of the different parts of the brain. And she knew that drugs would destroy the different parts of the brain in terms of people fully understanding the environment that they're in. So she knew that. So in the education area, she was at the top. She, on the scale from 0 to 10, I would give her a 10 on that. So psychological, I give her a 10. Culture, probably maybe an 8, 7, 8. Economics, 10. Education, 10. Health, question. It's questionable. Maybe 6, 7. But then we go into the next round would be the spiritual. And she's definitely a spiritual person, because spiritual to me means having, first of all, being connected with your racial relatives. To have that understanding that we are, because of our melanin, we are all racial relatives no matter where we are on the globe. So she understood that. That's why she talked about melanin. And she always spoke, she was always a keynote speaker at the melanin conferences. she understood the value of melanin, and she said, how do you protect your melanin? Can you protect your melanin? And then you go into the social and then the political. So she was really so I say, man, she's a divine supreme goddess, queen mother, utmost magnificent, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. So I'll just conclude that. I mean, I don't know if I can say anything else about her, but she definitely had an impact on my learning. And as I said, I met her. I don't know if I met her actually in '75. I heard her speak in '75, but I heard her again last May. Professor Griff brought her to Atlanta. She and Dr. Marimba Ani, and they were both on the same program, and I heard both of them speak. And then Dr. Welsing was at the NBUF, that's National Black United Front Conference. She spoke then. And, man, I got a chance to take a picture with her. I think it's on my website. I thought it was lost. And I said to her, Dr. Welsing, I heard you speak in 1970. I said 40 years ago. I think it was 1975. She said, wow, we really go back. I said, yeah, we do. So I really love that sister, man. I will never forget her. And anytime I do libation, I'm calling her name. And we ask these ancestors to come and help us and give us guidance, give us the understanding, the strength to fight against the enemy so that we can achieve our goal. Our mission is, I'm going to interject my personal ideas now. There's no other reason for us to be on the planet other than to solve this problem. She talks about bringing justice to the planet. So that would be in the political area, to bring justice to the planet. But I have this paradigm, and under political, in my paradigm, it says white people, this on the white side of the board, there are like 5 aspects on the white side of the board under political. The first one is that they are always, that's ALL, always at war. That's what they are. They're always at war. The second one is, and Dr. Welsing and Nellie Fuller understood this, the second aspect is confusion. Create a lot of confusion amongst the people. Have the people helter-skelter, pell-mell, running around all over the place, bumping into each other. No focus. Right? When you don't have focus, you don't know where you're going. The next one is, and this is the one that I love, that the white people never want you to come to a conclusion. Just keep doing the same thing over and over again, never stopping to think, to come, well, hey, where is this going? Where are we going with this? Where is this leading? Just stay locked into a paradigm that has no end game. So now I'm interjecting my stuff into this. No end game. Just keep doing that. Fine. See, my end game is black liberation. That's the last move in my end game. So those are the 3 so far. Always at war, the white people. Continue to create confusion. Make sure people never come to a conclusion. And the last 2, destruction and death. Now, I am totally against television. I don't have a television. I kick the TV out of the door. When the white people say, oh, you got to have this certain box and you got to do this, I say, you can have your TV. There's nothing on it. And I heard Dr. Welsing years ago make this statement about the media and television. She said there's nothing on there but death and dying and death and dying and death and dying. And I have added, it's nothing but sex, depravity, backstabbing. I mean, if you really want to learn about white people. Just really look at television intelligently if you're going to look at it at all. But when I heard her say that, man, it sent the chill through me. She said, death and dying, death and dying, death and dying. That's what it is. And so I think those are my comments about her. And if black women could, if they had to emulate any sister on the planet to carry themselves with dignity, it would be Dr. Welsing. This whole thing about the mini skirts and what's this other thing they wear, these little string things, and, you know, their boobs hanging out and all of that. Yo, man, where you get that from? Who taught you how to do that? You know who taught them how to do that? The white people taught them how to do that. So Dr. Welsing walks with dignity. She's a proud African woman. And this is the model that sisters should emulate. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And in the future, now, we know how the white people are. They're going to finally, somewhere down the line, they're going to try to make her an integrationist and, you know, do all kind of, alter her image, distort what she had to say, misinterpret it. But I think we have so much information, it might be hard to do that. But look out for that. You know, you might see her, you know, they're so tricky. They might put her in a perm somewhere down the line. So, you know, just look out. I have this thing that war is being waged against us. War is being waged against us. Now, when you know war is being waged against you by the white man and the white woman, it comes in different forms and tricks. So don't be deceived, because if you are deceived, you will be a victim of the different forms and tricks that they bring forward. But worse, for those who don't even know that war is being waged against them, not only will they surely be defeated, they will be killed. Furthermore, not only will they be defeated and killed when they don't even know war is being waged against them, they will be duped, unwitting co-conspirators in their early demise. So Dr. Welsing has enabled me to come up with that understanding. Not only is war being waged against us, but know that it's coming in has different forms, that there are many tricks embedded in the different forms. And if we don't know that, we surely will be defeated and killed. But if we don't even know that war is being waged against us, not only will we be defeated, we will be co-conspirators. In fact, we will accelerate our own subtle suicide when we don't even know that war is being waged against us. So I think that Dr. Welsing would say, I don't know, I'm just surmising that she would say the perfect slave is the one who doesn't even think that he's a slave. But what she tried to do was to get us out of a slave mentality, something that was superimposed on us by external forces. And so what she tried to do was elevate us. In fact, she elevated our understanding to see the global dynamic that we're involved with, And so you have to I think it's important to understand how the system is set up to destroy us. And so she laid that out for us in her book, her great book, The ISIS Papers, and in all of her lectures. One of the things I love about her, she didn't deviate. She was steadfast. This is what's up. This is how it's going. This is how it's going down. This is what you need to be aware of. This is what you need to do. So she had the solutions for us. So I'll conclude my remarks about Dr. Welsing there.
Right on. We had her sister, Lauren Cresslove. We had her on the program, I think 2 or 3 times since she passed, and it was just fascinating to get more information just about her growing up, and before she was Dr. Welsing, and their mother and father, like the history of her grandparents working against racism, and I mean, it was just amazing, like hearing more information about even her other sister who passed away, Barbara Cress Lawrence.
Right.
Her husband, Robert Lawrence, was like the first black astronaut, and he died in training. And she gave us more information about that, and she was saying he was stationed in Alabama, and this was like in the 60s. So there was like all of these racist white people mad that we got this nigger here, and they mistreated him. They kept denying him promotions, and he was training a white man from Germany. And she said that she found out after his death that this white man was not qualified to be in this program. But Robert Lawrence's, Dr. Welsing's brother-in-law, is training this white guy, and he doesn't do the proper maneuver, and the plane crashes, and he dies in the crash. And his wife, Dr. Welsing's sister, Barbara Cress Lawrence, she said she got all of this mail and people saying, that nigger doesn't deserve this and nigger that and blah, blah, blah. She got all of this mail after he dies in this training exercise, because they had this long argument about whether he would get I think you should get a star if you're in the NASA space program and you die. Then they put you on this wall of whatever. And they were saying, well, technically, since he was in a training mission, he wasn't in space, so he shouldn't get a star. And so they had to argue about this for years, whether or not they were going to give him this honor before they finally did. And she said that people were really upset about that. But I mean, it was amazing, because I had never even heard that. But she said that she totally believes that they killed him because he was successful. He was black. This was in Alabama. This is right around Bull Connor time, bombing of the Birmingham church, Alabama. And they hated having him there. And she totally thinks that they killed him. I wish I had known this, because I would have loved to have heard Dr. Welsing's thoughts on that as well, because she went to Germany to study and everything, and she so often talked about the importance of what happened in Nazi Germany.
Yeah. These people are something, man. These white people they are just over the top. But my statement about that is, when we use this word nigger, I think we have it backwards. I've said that repeatedly, that there's only two niggers on the planet, and that's the white man and the woman. All you have to do is go and look at Shell Oil in Nigeria, and look at what Shell Oil did to the Ogoni people and their environment, and to the water. And there's a wonderful brother, Ken Sarawiwa, who was executed by the Nigerian government for standing up against Shell Oil. And just that alone, as I explained before, and this profound or anything, or saying that if there is a nigger on planet Earth, just think about it. If there is such a thing as a nigger, and Dr. Welsing will talk about projection as a psychiatrist, what projection is, that people project onto others who they really are. So the first person to come up with this idea of nigger was somebody white. Now, there's a whole thing about nigger and all that, but I'm not going to get into all of that, out of Africa and all that. However, but to me, somebody that has the capacity and the willfulness to destroy water. Here we go with Flint now. To destroy and pollute the air, to kill the fish, to kill the coral reefs, to dump toxic waste in the water, to destroy children that they make it mandatory that you bring your child to school. And I think that this was the whole trick about integration. People keep saying, oh, integration was bad for us. And I have said this for 1,000 years, that the singular purpose of integration was for white people to have greater access to black people. That's what the purpose of integration was. And people say, well, that was the worst thing. I think integration is neck and neck with television. When we let that television come into our home, if you look at a piece, I don't know if it's online, ethnic notions is one, but the second part to that is called color adjustment. And I think they said in 1954 there were only, small percentage of TVs, and after that, it was more than that. But when we let that television and those white people get into our homes through television, we were finished. The products that they sold, about Edward Bernays and how he propagandized television, the commercials, like for example, I have relatives that smoked Chesterfield, Lucky Strike, Pall Mall, and the cigarette industry said, oh, it's okay, these cigarettes are okay. But what people did not know was that the cigarette industry financed certain scientists to come up with studies that said, well, it's inconclusive whether or not cigarettes are harmful. See, the tobacco industry financed that. In other words, the cigarette industry lied. So this is what they were promoting on television. White flour, all of this milk and all of this stuff that they were lying in order to make money. But this is how all of this poison got into our minds and our bodies and our spirits, was through television. So, yes, integration was bad. I think television was worse. So Dr. Welsing clearly talked about projection. And so to me, this idea of nigger, this was, and I use the word, injected into our psyche as part of the scientific calculating formula to diminish our self-esteem and destroy our identity. So I remember Dr. Welsing knew we were fighting against scientists. So here come these words. And I heard this word tonight, and it just sends a shiver through me when I hear people say, oh, I'm in the hood. Where'd you get that from? I didn't come up in a hood. I came up in a community in Brooklyn. You don't think of Brooklyn as being a community, but everybody looked out for each other, just like in the South. We looked out for each other. We didn't have, dig this, I never saw one fight on my block not one fight. I never heard the word nigger until I was in my 30s. Where I played ball, walked all over the city. We had some battles in the park. Never heard it. So where does this come from? It comes from the war being waged against us from the external white forces. That's where it came from. And then they paid these brothers who were broke, basically, say, hey, the raunchier you get, the more money we will pay you. If you go back and look at the movie Hollywood Shuffle, is that Robert Townsend?
Yep, you're right, correct.
But he has, this great background in theater, and then he has to practice to be this low life, foolishness. So, listen, man, I'm telling you, there's war against us, and the people that don't understand that, I say war is being waged against you. I'm not kidding. This is not entertainment. This is not theater. War is being waged against us. This is what Dr. Welsing taught us. And if you don't get with it, you don't understand it, you are going to be a victim of it. So I had the phrase that a majority of black people are under white mind-controlled black victims of white terror, domination, and deceit. And white terror, domination, and deceit always, always, always lead to destruction and death. And many of us have, unfortunately, become co-conspirators, and we co-sign on our early death. So I say that the highest concept on planet Earth in this realm, I'm not talking about aliens or spiritual or anything at this point. In this context, the highest concept is black liberation. And that's why I don't commingle or cross-pollinate black liberation with any ideology, with any other philosophy, or any other principle or religion, or any other concept or action. I don't commingle black liberation with any of those things, with any of the aforementioned, because black liberation is the highest concept. It's above all of that. It's beyond all of that. And in fact, I said that it stands alone. It's stellar. And my foundation is Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. That and I spoke not too long ago, and I said, listen, what you want to do is you want to get your children. This is all you want to put in their minds is black and Africa. And these two words are interchangeable. If you look at the work of Dr. Cheonta Diop, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, or Dr. Ben, they use these words, or Dr. John Henry Clark, or Amos Wilson, they use these words, black and Africa are interchangeable. One is not better than the other. They're interchangeable. They both refer to the people. However, Dr. Clark says he uses the word Africa because he said you always tie yourself to land, land and culture. There's one other, I can't think of it right now. But land, people, and culture, I think it is. But I have this expression I came up with. It's not that but I came up with it years ago. It's the first one to the mind is the winner. So whoever can implant the concepts into a child's mind first is the winner. I think that the church has this expression, give me your child up until the age of 7, we got them for life. So here goes. You implant black and Africa in the mind of the child, these concepts with the images, with the artifacts, with the red, black, and green. You bombard your child early with these images. so that when the assault comes, there's no room in the child's head for white concepts, because white concepts are death concepts. Some people say, oh, well, I don't think so. Yeah, believe it. So and the mistake that many of us make is that we think that death is always just physical. No, there's psychological death, there's cultural death, psychological death, calling yourself minority, watching whatever this stuff is on TV, or it's Empire, Scandal, the game shows, the soap operas, reading these silly novels. That's all psychological death. Then there's cultural death. What is cultural death? Celebrating holidays that have nothing to do with you. There are different aspects of cultural death. And then there is, of course, economic death. You can imagine what that's like, just buying stuff, just consuming, just buying stuff to be buying it, trying to impress people that don't have anything themselves. And then, of course, there's educational death. People relish being ignorant. Some relish, oh yeah, I'm just ignorant as I can be. I don't read nothing. I don't want to read nothing. I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to change. Hey, to me, you're just going to be out. That's all. You're going to be off planet Earth because you don't understand what's being waged against you. Then there's health death. Just be an omnivore, eat anything, anytime. You don't care about health, Then there's, social, religious death, and religion. That's the ism, right? Idol, symbols, mythology. They still running. I turn on the radio, I listen to, just going up the dial, up and down the dial, and I hear a white preacher. I said, you kidding me? A white preacher talking about God or Jesus? That's a joke. They can't possibly believe that. I said, you still believe that? You still running that game on people? The 10 Commandments on every year? There's another one, Spartacus. Come on, man. You still running that on the people? And they still going for that? Come on, man. You got to be kidding me. And then there is the social death, and then there's political death. Marcus Garvey said, everything we do is political. And political to me, as I pointed out those 5 things before, always at war, never coming to a conclusion, confusion, never coming to a conclusion, destruction and death. Where we go means that we're giving credibility to the place that we're going to. So like I never go into a bar, because that means I'm saying, yo, this bar, this is what's up, this is what's happening. No, I don't go into bars. I don't go to the concerts. Why would I go to a concert? To see black people sing and dance. And they said that Beyonce was here. I wouldn't know Beyonce if she walked through the door right now. I wouldn't know. I don't know what she looked like. I don't care nothing about no athletes and no entertainers. I do not care about them. I don't care about their lives, nothing. I just don't. Malcolm said, since when do entertainers and athletes speak for black people? But the ticket Beyonce was $800. That's what I did. And so when a black person buys a ticket, the ticket should say, this ticket is paying the mortgage for the people that own this building. That's what that ticket is doing. And then I hate to say, but those Negroes come and they sing and dance, and they don't leave any money in the community. They sing, dance, they don't leave any money for the independent schools, the cultural centers. They don't leave any money. When was the last time you got a contribution from a singer or a dancer or athlete, Brother Gus.
Actually, the guy that did the documentary Wilmington on Fire, Christopher Evan. It's about the 19th, Wilmington, the massacre down there. He did a documentary. He said that he got a sizable investment from a current NBA player, but they had to remain under anonymity because he didn't want it to cause him problems. But he said that that's how he was able to complete the project. He was able to tell him what the
Hey, I
budget.
know.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think that's in their contract actually.
And
That yeah, tell me all these years, all these great players, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, coming all right down, and nobody makes a contribution to the community. That's in their contract. That's what was in Jackie Robinson's contract. You cannot react to these fans and what they do to you.
right, right.
Yeah.
What about Muhammad Ali? Does he count?
Well, I think that he, in one of his statements, he said, when I win this fight, I'm going to come back, I'm going to give my money to the community. And then I think is when they poisoned him. That's what I think. Well, go ahead.
I was going to ask, you think that's what happened, that this was some sort of poisoning, basically, some sort of, he was injected with something that brought about his medical condition? You don't think it was a result of too many head injuries, too much head trauma?
I never put anything past white people. Right. Yeah, that's what I think. Now, he fought against Joe Frazier. Did Joe Frazier have Parkinson's?
Not to my knowledge. He died in 2011, but he didn't have any notice. He was doing interviews and stuff. Like, you can see him right up to the time that he died, and he seemed in good health.
Yeah, right. That fight was brutal, man. But I heard somebody say, "Yeah, Muhammad, we're going to shut you up from talking." When he stopped talking, he became a hero, really. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on him, man. He did want to come back and help the community. So, but I think that these athletes and entertainers, they're under lockdown.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I think it's obvious. I think David West, he did contribute to Dr. Ben's proceedings. I know a lot of folks, they reported on that. I saw it in quite a few. I think it was even in the Final Call they did a piece on it because he was with the Pacers at the time. But I was going to ask because I thought it was really important when you were saying you don't commingle any other ideologies with Black liberation. The Orlando shooting happened right almost on the day of the Charleston attack at Mother Emanuel AME last year. And my analysis, I didn't get to do a $10,000 study, but my observation, the Charleston anniversary did not get very much attention at all. They did some specials in Charleston and South Carolina, but in terms of national attention, it was all about Orlando. In my opinion, it greatly overshadowed that event. And I think a big part of the result is going to be, in terms of concepts, it's going to be a requirement. Like, if you want to be a verified Black person talking about racism, you're going to have to mention the war on gays and gay rights and all that. You're going to have to mention that. And if you,
I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I leave that to other people. I'm not in that. I'm not in that at all. They're not dragging me into that stuff. Yeah. But if you listen to Carl Nelson interviews Mark Anaheim and Dick Gregory, they talk about that. On YouTube. Yeah, Mark Anaheim is very sharp. So they talk about Orlando and what they think really happened. So. Yeah.
Fascinating. Wow. I didn't your wife, it seemed like she was talking to, I think your daughter. I told her I didn't mean to interrupt, but man, yeah,
Mhm.
I had definitely wanted to just, hear your thoughts on Dr. Welsing and Muhammad Ali, because that, had been something people had been talking about. And again, it just seemed like there had been so many transitions this year. Prince and Tupac's mother
Mhm.
as well. I know we had talked about that also and being
Mhm.
suspicious, the timing of her death and just the way it was reported. Um, yeah, it's been quite a
Yeah.
year. Um, do you do you have any observations or thoughts on what's happening with the presidential campaign?
No, man. No. No, not really. No, no. But if you look at, I will say this: I have a tape, an old tape, the Clinton, Hillary. Uh, she's she's just awful. They're, they're all awful. But
Amen.
a lot of this, man, I my paradigm says that we have to get our different selves, areas I just laid out. And I don't know if I sent you a copy of the discussion I had on George Jackson University on Blog Talk about 3 weeks ago. And I lay out this paradigm that I've been working on, the Kambon down I've been working on for a long time. And we just have to get our different selves together because it's going to be very, very rough, man. It's rough now on us. And this is why, and I think it really comes down to the fact that we do not know what genocide, really the word is democide. Everybody's using the word genocide. But democide, as I pointed out in our earlier discussions a couple of years back, is when a government intends to exterminate a group within its borders for cultural, economic, political, racial, or religious reasons, or just out of pure hate. And and it comes in, as I said, in different forms. So the question is, and this is really the question in this global dynamic, how are we going to stop white people from killing us? And how are we going to stop us from killing ourselves? Those are the only two questions on planet Earth. That's it. How are we going to stop them from killing us? And how are we going to stop us from killing ourselves in each one of these areas that I pointed out? How are we going to stop us from killing ourselves psychologically? I know some people, man, they are just in such real, bad shape, psychologically, culturally. I said, man, you are still celebrating Christmas? Are you kidding me? You got a Christmas tree up? And, oh, man, come on. When are you going to stop? You're still doing this. You're still lusting after a BMW or whatever the latest car is. You are financing your own destruction. You're not reading? Come on. Where are you? My question is, what are black people doing with their lifetime? See, we all have an expiration date. And, they say somebody's born and then they make a transition. So that dash between born and their ascension to a higher realm, what did they do? That's what that dash represents. What did they do with that lifetime? And I maintain that the only reason we are all here as black African people is to solve this problem once and for all. Not to have a good jump shot. not to hang out and drink wine, not to smoke reefer. That's not why we're here. Not to gossip and backbite. You see, not to be jealous and envious of each other. Not to be mean to each other. Not to backstab. Not to undermine the group that we're in or family members. That's not why we're here. That's what I think. Other people say, hey, we're here for this, that. No, I said, no. There's no other reason to be on the planet Earth. So the question is, what is your mission? And what is your end game? In the paradigm, this is what I come up with. Everybody is locked into a paradigm. They're in this group, they're in that. So I'm saying, okay, you're in a paradigm. Whatever paradigm you're in. You're Baptist, you're, I don't know, independent party, you're Boule, whatever you're in. We're at the maximum, at its max. When it ends, where are you? What have you achieved? In other words, what's the end game in the paradigm that you're in? See, and most people are in these never-ending, open-ended paradigms. So if you go back to the political that I talked about, one of the things the white terror dominators want, they never want you to come to a conclusion. You see? And that's why you've heard me say about, this is where we have a different idea about this word, white supremacy. You've heard me say this before, that white people are not supreme, but they dominate by terror and deceit. They just, really, frankly, they just have more guns than everybody else. They're just more savage than anybody else. That's why they dominate, but they're not supreme. You see, they have more cunning and trick than anybody else. And so that's why they dominate, and they are more deceitful than anybody else. So I know that the Chinese know this. I use them as, they know this. That's why they got their defenses up all the time. The Chinese got their defenses up all the time. They are not playing. They understand who they're dealing with. So this is these are some of my thoughts, and not just casual thoughts. I mean, I've been giving this a lot of consideration, and that is not just I'm not just talking. I've been giving this a lot of consideration. Where we are, what we're doing, our enemy, and as I said before, wars being waged against us. And if we don't know the different forms it's coming in, if we don't know the different tricks, then we will be victims of the war, and surely we will be defeated if we don't know the enemy. And even more than that, not only will we be defeated, especially if we don't even know that war is being waged against us. We don't see it as war. We see it, and this is one thing they love to say, oh, this is an isolated incident. So they kill Sean Bell, shoot him, 51 times. They do this to Amadou Diallo. They kill Ramarley Graham. They kill Oscar Grant. They kill Trayvon. They do this. Jordan Davis, Shaka Sankofa. They kill all these people in different places. Oh, that's just isolated. That's isolated. No, there's war being waged against our race. That's what this is. And I'm saying, well, and I'm just coming to the planet. I'm just asking the question, can we stop this? How are we going to stop it from happening? So I had this expression, and this is what I think one of our goals should be. We have to stop the white man from escaping into the next generation of our children. That's what I think we should be doing. So how do we do that? Hey, sit down, let's think about it. How do we do it? So I know what my solution is to this problem once and for all. So the question for me is not what the solution is, but how to implement the solution. So that's all I have to say, brother, unless you have some other questions.
Ah, man, I just even when you were talking about Dr. Welsing and what happened in Flint, I was remembering. I think years ago you had told me to check out the movie Through the Hard Way with Jim Brown, and they're conspiring to kill all the black people. And
Right.
that's what's on television, and they're going to do it through the water supply. They're gonna, and I think this was even in Michigan. I think Through the Hard Way. I think the area that they're in is Michigan. This is where they're trying to.
Right.
They're
Right.
going to kill the black people. I mean, it's pretty
Right.
brazen.
Prophetic.
Pretty
Prophetic.
brazen.
The other thing is, they're talking about the lead in the water. Now, that is reversible. Nobody's really talking about that. My wife has a letter entitled We Charge Genocide. They had a town meeting in D.C. last night using that as the basis for the discussion about how to deal with going on in Flint. But the other thing that people are not talking about, well, three things. One, the lead poisoning is reversible in the alternative health paradigm. See, if people are just locked into this regular medical model, no, they can't do anything about it in that model. But there are other models where it can be reversed. The other thing is that nobody's talking about the chlorine in the water or the fluoride in the water. You see, nobody's talking about the poisoning of the food. I know in Flint there's a food desert, but nobody's talking about I'm not even going to get into the nanotechnology in the food and the GMOs. So first, so the other thing is war is being waged against us. That means that there is a clear enemy. So who is the enemy? So do we know who the head of Monsanto is? Like the people in Occupy Wall Street. They're out there, they're marching and protesting and whatnot. I bet the head of the New York Stock Exchange could walk by them and even sit down with them. They wouldn't even know who it is. So who's the head of Monsanto? Who's the head of ABC? We always talk. I listened to a program not too long ago. The guy said in the media, said, you don't need to cut that stuff out about the media. If somebody writes something negative about black people, let's find out what newspaper is it? Who's the editor? Who's the chairperson of the board? Who's on the board? Who wrote the article? So let's stop this nebulous thing, the media. No, let's narrow this thing down and let's start identifying these people and doing something about it. I told you years ago, man, I was here, I'm looking at, this was like 30 years ago. I had a TV at the time. I had an old TV. Matter of fact, I had an old TV. It was so old. When I fixed it, I had parts left over, and it still worked. I said, oh, this is great. But anyway, I'm looking at it. It had Tarzan on it. I said, Tarzan? Are you kidding me? So what I did, I think I mentioned this before. I wrote a letter to, I don't know if it was Paramount, whoever it was, and I said, hey, man, take that crap off of television. And I'm going to circulate this letter around the community, and we are not going to buy any of your products. And maybe it's a coincidence, but that Tarzan was off of the air. That's right. It took it off the air. So, see, what we're dealing with is a cancer. And when you deal with a cancer, one of the first things you have to do is to identify the cancer and then detoxify. So our detoxification process is to
Do you watch something?
not feed the cancer. Cancer loves sugar. Black people are the sugar for the white cancer. So stop feeding the cancer. This is part of detoxification. Then once you detoxify, then you can start to replenish and nourish the body. So see, we're feeding the cancer by the things that we do. Every single thing that we do, we're either feeding the cancer or we're detoxifying. So that's why I say frugalize, minimize, frugalize, de-whitenize, re-Africanize. That should be the process. Frugalize. Don't buy anything. Stop buying stuff. Just buy the minimum. Just if you go in the store, just buy stuff that's on sale. I'm talking about food now. I'm not talking about clothes and all that. No, don't forget all of that. Fashions, brand names, labels. Forget all that. Give that all back to those people. Now, they said that there are 1,100 malls in the U.S., and 1/3 of them are getting ready to close down or in the process of closing. And you know why they're closing? Because I don't shop in the malls. Single-handedly, I am closing down. You see all these stores closing down? Hey, you all better give me credit because I'm the one that's doing it. I haven't bought socks, shirts, nothing in years. I got a pair of sweatpants that are older than you. Stop buying. That's all you got to do. Just stop. I got a piece in one of my books that just says, just stop it. Just stop. That's all. And then we'll see what happens.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, so, I got 16 books. I still haven't gotten support from the black people. I still don't get the support from the black people. And I got a website, KamauKambon.org. I know that you really appreciate, and talk about some of the work that I do, but the people have not responded appropriately, and I don't know if they will. But like Dr. Welsing, one of the things is though she left her book and her many lectures and discussions, and so I think that maybe the children will get it. Sometimes knowledge skips a generation. And, the older people, I have this idea that when we're young, we're fluid. And our fluid is just flowing, and we're flexible. And that's why they say try to teach the children, because they are more, they're more open. They can learn easier. And so the idea is that when we get older and older, the concepts become more concrete. They're harder to change. That's why it's harder for older people to change, because they're fluid. Their fluidity dries up and it gets hard and old, crusty, and they're not willing to change. So maybe it just skips a generation, and maybe the younger people will get it. So that's why I say 28 to 34. They kind of getting it. 28, 34, 35, 36, 38, up to about 40. Some older, they're getting it, they're coming around. But majority of them, I don't know. I don't think so. They down, they just, Whitey got their minds. That's the only way I could put it. Whitey got their minds. They love the TV, the soap operas, the foolishness, the entertainment, love entertainment. Anything serious, they start falling asleep. You start talking about black liberation, they start yawning. So, hey, all right, go ahead. We'll see. We'll find out whether what a person is doing is the truth. They won't know it until they get to the end. But I tell people, better change your diet. Watch where you spend your money. Watch who you supporting with your cash. And if you're on these jobs, I'm going to send you that piece I did. If you're on these jobs and you're on the lockdown, you're on economic lockdown, you got your children in private school, you got a big car, you got a boat and all that stuff, and these whiteys got you on the lockdown, you can't do nothing. Hey, you take a little bit of that money and say, hey, well, I can't leave, but there's cows, context of white supremacy. That brother's doing wonderful work. Let me shoot him a couple of dollars so he can keep up the work. And then I'm going to get on this job. I'm going to pretend I'm still down with these people, but I'm the spook who sat by the door, you see. That's how we should be rolling. Yeah, that's what we should be doing. So, you just have to develop some strategies for our survival. So how are we going to survive? Dr. John Henry Clark said, how are we going to, the name of, it's a little book. I don't know which one. If it's Africans at the Crossroads or Notes for a World Revolution, but one of them, somebody extracted one of the chapters entitled, Can African People Save Themselves? A wonderful, powerful chapter. And I said, yeah, I think we can. Not everybody. This group, Precise Science, has decided not everybody's going to make it. And that's unfortunate. And we change your diet. That's what it is. Bed-Stuy. That's Bedford-Stuyvesant. That's the motto. Bed-Stuy, do or die. So that's what's up. I know. Sometimes I don't. People say, "Oh, you're a professor." I say, "Yeah, I'm a professor of Black liberation. That's what I profess." So sometimes I don't sound professorial. I mentioned before I need to have a deep voice and, just very methodical. No, I'm not down. I don't get down like that. I'm just saying, come on, people. James Brown said, come on, people. We got to get it together because we're under massive assault by these white people, man. And it's the white people and it's the white mentality. So it's also the Asians, it's also the Arabs who are assaulting us on the continent. Everywhere we are, the black people, the African people are on the bottom. Economically, socially, politically. But we're on the top in all the pathologies. In my paradigm, it has under, I think it's subtle suicide, where it says we suffer from white concepts in various forms of death, of destruction and death, expressed in black pathologies. And it's expressed in black pathologies psychologically, culturally, economically, educationally, health, religiously, socially, politically. Then I got another little piece I've added to that, dealing with how they have gotten us in terms of MST, which is matter, space, and time, over MST, which is math, science, and technology. So these cell phones stuck to our head, everybody into these cell phones, and the more capacity they have, the more lethal they are. And so this addiction to these cell phones is madness. People can't extricate themselves. They can't pull themselves away from these phones, and it is ridiculous. Whitey got their mind. So this is the war. So that's basically what I have to say. But overarching all of this is the love that we really have for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and it's just unbelievable that the Queen of the planet Earth, I call her Queen of the planet Earth, Goddess of the universe, and she's not with us, but she is with us.
Dr. Welsing, she talked about that. Thankfully, we had her like on the program 31 times, so we got to share a lot of her commentary down through the years. Like I played a piece yesterday for the introduction from. We had her on the program as a guest the day after the Charleston shooting. This was like 24 hours after it first happened, and she was giving her thoughts on it, and him sitting there for an hour, how calculated this was, just breaking down everything about it, and she predicted like to a T like what was going to happen, how it was going to evolve, and even pointing out the fact that he was taken into custody, he wasn't beat up and all that, he was taken to Burger King for a hamburger, whereas black people for all kinds, Sandra Bland, anything happens, but yeah, she talked about that. When she was on the program once before, she talked about how just the impact of having those small screens and it shrinking, the impact that it has on your perspective, your field of vision, she said, just becomes very small. Like your perspective of the world becomes very, very small because you're just focusing on this little screen for all these hours on end. She talked about how that impacts your thinking.
Right. The other thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, this whole thing about this country, and I really underscore the fact that the intensity of what is going on economically really highlights the fact that white welfare is over. See, I said that white people are basically in this country on white welfare. Most of these jobs that were created after World War II, white welfare. Oh, man. If you check out, I didn't send it to you, Diane Rehm did a program, this like maybe 2 months ago. I remember it was on a Thursday, and she had a panel, and that Queen, Charlotte Ifill, was one of the panelists, and they talked about transportation in the U.S. And there was a demon on the transportation in the transportation department, a whitey, and they designed the transportation system in the U.S. to bypass black cities and where black people live, so that black people would not have access to jobs. And it affected Long Beach, California. I remember that was one. And then, of course, Durham, North Carolina, where they ran this Highway 147 through Hayti and broke up, really was the pearl of Black Wall Street, because it was a thriving economy there, and other places. And when I heard that, I said, wow, man, look at what these demons have done. Then you look at the FHA loans after World War II. I think it was only black people were shuttled away from getting the veterans shuttled away from getting loans. I think black people only got 2 or 3% of all the FHA and VHS loans, FHA and VA loans. This was intentional so that black people could not get mortgages or get homes. Then what I really fell out, this guy, Robert Moses, I don't know what he was, an architect, an engineer, but he was up in the metropolitan area in New York. And one of the things, I remember seeing a piece on him where he created, I don't know if it was the Bronx Cross Bronx Expressway, but something up in the Bronx where he broke up that community and they interviewed this old Italian. He said, man, we've been here generations, and they ran this expressway through here and broke it up. But dig what he did. When they created these overpasses, he intentionally had the overpasses built lower so that buses could not bring black people from the city to the suburbs or to the beaches.
Wow.
Now, I'm serious. I'm serious.
Is that
I don't know what program.
Is that the
Diane?
If that's the one where Sherilyn Ifill was on with Diane Rehm, I got that. I just pulled it up. I pulled it up online. I can record it, and if you want like an audio copy, I could send it to you.
Right. Okay, yeah. And then something else with that, man, but I said, look at these demons, man.
That's amazing.
Made the overpasses low so that the buses couldn't come out there, bring black people out there.
I mean, but that's scientific. And his name was it Anthony Fox, the Secretary of Transportation? Was it him who said it, or?
Right, exactly, right. He was the one that, and he sounded like he was trying to do something, but he's on the way out, I understand. I don't know I don't remember but I do remember that part. And then there was another program that came up. But man, I'm telling you, they scientists, they be working night and day. They be playing some serious defense, man. They got a full court press going on us, brother. So we better get it. We better get a offense that's gonna break the full court press.
Absolutely.
See, that's what team needs to do. So I look at everything like in a team. What is our offense? What is our defense? Can we shift from defense to offense, offense to defense? How's our transition? We got to have a good transition, know what we're doing, and when we need to do it. And there was another program that came up that was similar, and I just said, wow, we're learning all this stuff like 40, 50 years later. But the point I really want to make is that white people have been on welfare, and they have always been scheming. We talked about this a little earlier. They've always been scheming. They always got some kind of scheme going to make sure that they keep us in check. And that's what that Emancipation Proclamation was, that amendment to make sure that they could still have slavery in effect, then the Jim Crow and all of this other madness. But it really is for white welfare. And I said before, the auto industry, white welfare, the unions, white welfare for white males. The airline industry, the steel industry, all of these so-called industries. And now that the money is broke, you've heard me say this, the money is broke. I've been talking about the central banks for at least 45 years, man. The FDIC, the Federal Reserve. I told you this book, by Robert L. Preston. I think it's How to Prepare for the Coming Crash. I got this in the 70s. And he talked about all of this. Of course, Eustace Mullins, his book, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. He talked about the Federal Reserve, the central bank. And these central banks control the money all over the planet. Then there is the central bank of the central banks, which is the International Bank of Settlement, I think it's called. That's the main demonic central bank. And now all this money is broke, has no value. Really, it never did since 1933 when they instituted the Banking Act. They took the U.S. off the so-called gold standard. So they're marching all around the world trying to force these countries into these central banks. So the question is, who are the people these are private people that print the money and the money goes into their pockets. That's why these countries have to sell off their assets to private corporations to carry out the function. But basically, the white people have been on white welfare. The so-called middle class, I maintain there never was a white middle class, ever. They have always been on white welfare, the dole. And now that's over. So that's what we have to understand. That's what we should understand. So like Dick Gregory says, hey, recess is just about over.
That is the truth. That is the truth. And I know it's closing on 10. You know how you are sensitive about your rest, but I definitely always really appreciate it. I got that program right here with Diane Rehm. I'm gonna check it out today, and I can just record the whole thing, and I'll drop it in an email along with the audio from this, so you'll have it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking that out about how they designed the streets and what have you. But yeah, it's always just, man, privileged to be able to hear from you and get more information to go check out, do some more research. So always just really grateful you share some of your time, your insight, and always look forward to being in touch, man. It's was great.
Is your email still the same?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all
Until
right.
justice.
So I don't know if I sent you. Right, okay. I thought I may have sent something to you recently. Check your email to see if I sent you that discussion I did on a couple of weeks ago on George Jackson University.
Yes, sir. You did send it to me. That's why when I got it, I said, oh, yeah, I needed to make time. It reminded me to make time to make sure that I got in touch with you. But yes, sir, I did get it.
Okay, all right. You can give me some feedback on it when you listen to it.
I will do that. I will do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, brother. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And if anything comes up that, you think I need to listen to, because I'm always, as Father Neely Fuller says, ready to learn. And if my stuff is incorrect, hey, I'll throw it away and I'll pick up whatever's new and viable, and I'll run with.
Man, I appreciate it. That's putting that in action myself, just trying to keep learning, and if I'm making any errors, pick up better information and roll with it. So yeah, I'll give you some feedback once I get a chance to check out the George Jackson University talk that you gave, presentation, and I will email the audio file for the Diane Rehm program as well, with the audio from our discussion today.
Okay. So, and then the last thing, and this is what makes being African so beautiful, that I really, really dig, is that when you do libation, you just pour low in the plant or out on the ground, or just think about Dr. Welsing. And you always want to stay connected with the spirit. Now, I'm for that. Now, people may not understand it, and I'm coming to that understanding. Beautiful people, Fela, Kwame Nkrumah, Baba Olatun Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, Thelonious Monk. When you think about some of the attorneys, Charles Hamilton Houston, I'm a big Charles Hamilton Houston man. I love that brother. Said, man, that brother never went to one party. I love that brother. He studied all the time. Charles Hamilton Houston. There's a brother, many people don't know about him, Haywood Burns. He was in South Africa. He was a brilliant attorney who died in an auto accident. Then there's Johnny Cochran. There's a brother, you might want to go online. I think he does have maybe one video up. Clayton Jones, real serious brother. He's now I would call him These are all grandcestors I'm naming now. Clayton Jones. There are two others in that line I can't think of right now who are attorneys. Oh, Chokwe Lumumba. So that's five. There's one more. I can't think of who it is. But you think of them, and you think of all the musicians I mentioned, Horace Silver. These are all, to me, grandcestors. Then you got Dr. Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization. Then you have Drusilla Dungy Houston, who wrote the Wonderful Ethiopians of the Kushite Empire. Of course, there's Marcus Garvey, a brother I love. There's a brother you might want to get. I don't remember his name, but he is a scholar on Henry Hubert Harrison. He did an interview in D.C. a couple of years back, and he was in New York. He got a Ph.D., he got a couple of degrees, but he's super sharp. He's a scholar on Henry Hubert Harrison, a brother I really, really like. And then you come down to, you go to the West Coast. You have little Bobby Hutton and the Black Panthers, grandcessor, was killed. Then you have Dr. Huey P. Newton, Jijaga Pratt, Bunchy Carter, Dr. Dr. Richard King. There's somebody else out there that I'm forgetting. I can't think of who it is right now. But these are real giants, man. And then you have, of course, Chairman Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, they were killed in Chicago. These are grandcestors. Then you come down, my main man, Steve Coakley, Boule Man. He did the whole thing on the Skull and Bones, secret societies, circle within a circle. You know, he's looking for the core of negativity. Yeah, Steve is deep, man. One of the smartest brothers we ever had. He's a grandcestor. Dr. Khalid we had. Then you have Baba Fukiawa. His book is Self-Healing Power in Therapy. And then African Cosmology. He's a grandcestor. My main man, Baba Nanabu Tweku. Look at his book. Just the cover alone is 500 years of European behavior. That's one of the baddest covers I ever saw. Then you have the psychiatrist, the psychologist, Dr. Bobby Wright, right? Psychopathic racial personality is a grandcestor. We got all of these beautiful people that you want to stay connected with. Then you have, of course, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben. I mentioned Baba Herman Ferguson. His book is entitled, before he passed at 93, his book is, I think it's an Unlikely Hero or Unlikely Warrior. Baba Herman Ferguson. He has a couple of interviews on YouTube. There are some, I'm forgetting, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. John G. Jackson, J.A. Rogers. See, these are people who actually really gave their lives for us. Amy Jock Garvey. See, Ya Asante, I mentioned earlier. Nanny of Jamaica, Kwojo of Jamaica, the Maroons who fought against the British. Then you go over to Haiti. Toussaint Louverture, I really like that brother, but he made a huge tactical mistake. When he defeated the French, Napoleon said, "Hey, you're a general, I'm a general. Come on over, we can negotiate." So he figured that Napoleon was a human being. That was the mistake he made. He went over there, man, they put that brother in prison, and he died in prison. They probably starved him to death. But then you have Bookman, right? There was a sister, I don't know her name, who was one of the architects, the foundation of the Haitian Revolution. Then you have my man, Dessalines' brother. Dessalines, then Christophe. See, these are ancestors you want to stay connected with. Then you come here, and you know, brother, I love Charles Deslones, who led the 1811 rebellion in New Orleans, on to New Orleans. And he said, yeah, we're going to take over New Orleans. He said, because these white people, they talk about democracy, we're going to take it over. We're going to show them what democracy is. And one of the things I love about Charles Deslones, he got French Africans together. They all spoke different languages, had different customs, different spiritual systems, but they all came under one canopy. And that canopy that was the thread that brought them all together was black liberation against them from under white terror domination. There's a lesson in that for us. Then you have Jimmy Angola, who led the Stono Rebellion in 1739. The mistake that made, so we have lessons from our ancestors. We have life lessons, as Brother Nkosi says. They teach us the good things, they teach us the mistakes. The mistake they made in the Stono Rebellion, once they decided they were going to get their liberation, they were marching, they made noise. Mistake. After they raided the ammunition place and got the weapons, they banged, made noise. Mistake. The other mistake, they stopped. On your way for liberation, you never stop. No matter how tired you are, you never stop. Then the other mistake, huge mistake, they drank whiskey and they got high. That's always a mistake. Just like in that movie Posse, when the brother was in the room, he was drunk, he was getting high, and when the white kicked in the door, the brother was disoriented. And by the time he realized what was going on, it was too late, and the guy blasted him. There's a lesson in this. I tell brothers, no alcohol, no drugs, ever. You see, so we have these great people. We have Louise Patterson, the wife of William Patterson. They, together with Bea Richards, go and look at, I think it's One Woman's Story about Bea Richards and how they got together and they wrote the petition, We Charge Genocide. You see, then we got Adam Clayton Powell. Look at the piece he does, What's in Your Hand? Elijah Muhammad said that Adam Clayton Powell was the only politician we ever had. Right? So I mentioned some of these people, some of these ancestors, some of these grandcestors that you want to stay connected with. So you just think about them. You pour a libation. You think about them. You think about all the Africans in the middle that suffered through the Middle Passage. Dr. Clark said in the book, The Nile Valley Contribution to Civilization, he said that when you start counting the Black Holocaust, those who died in the Black Holocaust, you start your count at 600 million. You start your count at 600 million. You see, so these are the people that we want to stay connected with. So if people talk about, oh, I love Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? He sacrificed what? And you claim that if he ever existed, which he did not exist, if you do any kind of reading at all, and read the Council of Nicaea, or read Professor Walter Williams' book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, you see that this is a whole concoction. This is a fake. And people are still getting down with that. Come on now. Come on, people. If you want to honor somebody, if you want to revere somebody, venerate somebody, hey, you don't have to look very far. You can stumble over our heroes and sheroes. They're all around us. They are all around us, man. So don't sleep on your own people. And if you read that, go to that PBS special on Ida B. Wells and listen to that last statement that she makes about how they fought against these people. and said, hey, man, tell the children and the grandchildren that we were valiant, we were gallant in our fight against these people. Don't think that we weren't fighting always against them. And as I said before, man, they just had more guns than we had. So we got our grandcestors all over the place. And I don't want to miss anybody, but these are just some of them. And there were those who were enslaved on the continent. There were those who were terrorized. There were those who were brutalized, those who were tortured, who were raped, who were decapitated and maimed. There were Africans who were hanged on this side. They went through the seasoning process and brutalized in the Caribbean. So always stay connected with your ancestors and your grandcestors. So your ancestors on your family side. Now look, everybody is not an ancestor. So you have to say, I honor my ancestors on my mother's side of my family line who are worthy. I honor my ancestors on my father's side of my family line who are worthy. Because everyone who makes a transition is not worthy of qualifying as an ancestor. And even the grandcestors, now, they got some flaws, but their overarching effort was on behalf of our people. And that's